Hi, this is another episode of Wikipedia Weekly. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew Lee, also known as User Falsetto. So thanks for joining us on kind of a last moment episode of Wikipedia Weekly. And we thought this would be a timely episode to talk about the Google Doodle that showed up on Google today, which features the Met Museum. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to look into the Wikipedia, Wikidata, Wikimedia Commons content that are referenced from the Google Doodle and take a look at what we can do to improve them and to work with them. So before we go on today, I want to introduce the rest of our crew here. Richard, tell us about you.
Hi, I'm Richard Nipel, user Pharos, Wikimedia resident with the Met, and excited to learn about the Google Doodle shortly after midnight last night from a friend in Seattle.
Great. And Jeannie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeannie Choi. I'm the General Manager of Collection Information at the Metropolitan Museum, and I've been working with Andrew and Richard very closely over the past couple of years to get our content onto all the Wiki platforms. So I'm happy to be here.
Great. And we're so glad to have Jeannie join us, at least for the next half hour. And again, this is not an official Met production or anything. This is really just meant as kind of a casual way to really showcase some of the stuff that is possible once we have brought in all these open access works from the Met, the metadata and the Commons image files, and what we can do with them. We thought this is a great time to just kind of give a tour around what kind of tools we have. And we'd love to interact with the community and have you give us your ideas in terms of what we could do with this content, or what are some tools and techniques that are your favorites in working with collections like this. So some of you might be watching this on YouTube, some might be watching us on Facebook. We're using a system called StreamYard that allows us to broadcast to both platforms at the same time. And whatever you type back to us, we can actually see on the screen. So we'd love to see you send us where you're watching from, what kind of things you might be interested in regarding Wikidata or GLAM, what we call galleries, libraries, archives, museums. And let us know what kinds of things you're looking into or what you'd be interested in. And as we're doing some of these demos, please do let us know things that are interesting or things you'd like to learn more about. So before we get started, let's go ahead and make sure you know if you're on Facebook, you might have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook to authenticate your login so that when you type in a comment, we can see it on the screen. So for example, we can go in here and hopefully see this comment from Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn. Great to see you. And yes, we'll be showing you some things about Wikipedia, Wikidata, and how these things work. We're going to be going into some of the technical parts of how this works, but hopefully none of this is really over the head of even beginners, because we're going to try to show you how all this stuff works out there. So you are coming from Boise. Great to see that. So yes, folks, tell us where you're watching from or what your interests might be. So Richard, tell us again what a Google Doodle is and how you found out about it.
So a Google Doodle is it's an illustration. Sometimes it has an animation. Sometimes it has a game involved. We didn't get a game this time, but there was one for the 151st anniversary of the Met, which is today. It was supposed to be apparently last year for the 150th anniversary, but you know it was a very busy time with the pandemic, and so we were able to have it today. And they illustrated it with the public domain CC Creative Commons 0 images that we use in Wikimedia Commons and have been released by the Met as part of the Met Open Access Project. And they sort of illustrate, there are 18 different works. I think there are 3 variations on each letter of GOOGLE, if you haven't noticed that. And they're all public domain works, and they and there are a lot of them are works that we have Wikidata, we all have Wikidata items in all of them. We have Wikipedia articles on a bunch of them. And we could have some more content as well. And it's sort of fun. I learned about it, last night at 12:15 a.m. from a friend with the Seattle Wiki group who helpfully messaged me. And I think these things are sort of a surprise. They don't want to have like too much of a connection. They don't like to warn people ahead of time. So it was kind of fun to see. And I immediately went to see which ones had Wikipedia articles and which ones didn't.
And Jeannie, what did you think? You don't have to violate any confidentiality if you knew about this beforehand, but what did you think when you saw the Google Doodle on the front?
I was excited. It's just exciting to be featured on one of the most visited websites. So I'm glad to see our open access works put to good use. So, and we're very proud of our 151st anniversary. It's been a long road, but we're happy that this is finally happening.
Yeah, and if you look at, I'll bring up the post. So usually there's an associated post with each of these Google Doodles, and this is the post that the artist posted in here. And it's actually kind of interesting because you're wondering, this is actually the 151st anniversary. Like last year was the big year, but you can see that they actually were planning to do something for the 150th, but the pandemic upended those plans. I can't remember where it is in here, but there was something in here in his Q&A that talked about this. Oh yeah, he was working on this starting last year, but had to postpone because of the pandemic. But here we are with the note from the author. And the question is now, how do we find out what artworks these are and how many are there? Well, we're lucky in that the artist actually gave us a link down here. So Jeannie, tell us what we're getting to when we click on this here.
Those are all the featured artworks, all public domain. We created a collection for it, so we tagged these in our database. So that's how they're all, and it's a variety. It's from many of our departments. I don't think every single one of our departments is represented. Maybe we have 17 curatorial departments, and I know there are 18 objects. But yep.
Yeah, that's great. And I don't know whether we're lucky or by design, all of these are open access works, right? So we can actually work with all these. So the first thing as Wikimedians, what we did was we said, well, what does the footprint of these objects look like in the Wikipedia universe? So the easiest, I don't know about the easiest, but one way that we did this is that you can actually click on each of these, right? So you can bring up each of these in a different tab, right? And here are the works, and we look down here and we say OA or public domain. That's a good sign. That means there's a very high likelihood that these have been, the images have been brought into Wikimedia Commons, our image repository. And it's very likely there's a Wikidata item about each of these. So Wikidata is our structured database that is holding metadata for each of these major artworks here. So what we can do is key off of this number here in the URL, which is called the object ID or the Met object ID. This should not be confused with what you see down here, which is common with museums, called the accession number, right? So Jeannie, accession numbers are kind of a older concept of dealing with the actual materials and handling them, but the object number is a higher level number, right?
Yeah, the object ID is a system-generated unique identifier, whereas the accession numbers, they are assigned when the object enters the collection. So they go back to 1870.
Right. So this is kind of a more modern number that we also track in Wikidata, our database. So what at least I did is I went into every single page and copied down this Met object ID. And then once we got 18 of them, because we can see, unfortunately, it's only 18, you can kind of do it by hand. But if you were trying to do a bigger list, you try to find something like what we call a scraper to actually go in and automatically get those numbers. But if you're looking for something less than 20 or 30, you can probably just do it by hand faster. So after we create a list of those numbers, what do we do with that list? Well, one of the things we can do is first, let's do what Richard did. Richard, what did you do first of all? You went into Wikidata, and what did you do?
I tried to find which ones were Wikipedia articles, and I did
so first you tried to find out whether there's Google Doodle, right?
Yeah. So first I wanted to find out, because of course I was so excited to be even vaguely involved with the Google Doodle because I'd seen them for years. I wanted to see if there are other Google Doodles that had Wikidata items, and I first went to the Google Doodle item on Wikidata because we have an item for everything that's on Wikipedia plus more. And I saw what linked to it, which is the crudest way of doing a query. And I saw there was exactly one thing that linked to it, and that was the Pac-Man Google Doodle. And so the Pac-Man Google Doodle was my model to build the Met Google Doodle Wikidata item.
Exactly. So what you normally do in Wikidata is you'd say, do we have an item for a Google Doodle, like the concept? And Richard said, yes, we do. Google Doodle. That's awesome. So we have a Google Doodle. And then we said, well, how many instances of Google Doodles do we have, right? So we can use a query. This is called Wikidata Query. And we almost, all of us do this. We start with a cats query. Don't ask me why it's cats first, but we can probably guess why it's cats first. So this is a query for cats. And this shows you all the cats in Wikidata. But we can just change one little thing here and change this to Google Doodles, right? How many instances of Google Doodles do we have? And the cool thing is you just type in Google Dude, and then you can hit Control Space, and it'll just kind of fill in what it can find. And there we are. And then Richard did a search. And at the time, there was only Google Pac-Man. I think that was the most famous one. It's like a playable game, right, that you could play in Google. But then he just made the Met Google Doodle, and you can kind of tell from the sequence number here, it's a much newer item here, right?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and inspect what Richard did. So tell us how you modeled the Google Doodle.
So first I wanted to find out what it is. It's an instance of something. So it's an instance of a Google Doodle, like Pac-Man. I went through every country that it was displayed on. It was helpfully displayed by Google. They said it was shared in the United States, but also a bunch of other seemingly random countries, a bunch in Central and Eastern Europe and Japan and Australasia, but not Western Europe, not South America or Africa. It was sort of interesting. Anyway, I wanted to be complete, so that we can scroll past that. It's not super interesting, but and I put in all of the artworks that they depict. I said, of course, the main subject is the Met, and I put all of the artworks. And I just made sure that the artworks are appropriate. And these are all the Wikidata items that we've imported from the Met catalog. And they all include the image and what is in those works, the artists, things like that.
Great. And it helps us to see, depicts 18 things. We want to always make sure the items match, right? Yeah. So we had 18 records here. We're in good shape here. Now, the other intermediate step I want to show you is how do you get to these actual items here? So notice that these items here are not just text strings. These are actual entities already in Wikidata. So we'll call this kind of a controlled vocabulary that Wikidata has. And to find out what these actual unique items are in Wikidata is non-trivial, right? We got to make sure that the exact queue number is met. So one way we can do this is using a query. So this is, again, the query service that we have. It's called Sparkle. And we can actually make a query that looks like this, which is taking the list of items, the object IDs, and doing a query like this. And the way this query works is basically saying, I'm listing all the Met object IDs, which are the ones that you see right here, right? If I grab each and every one of those and I put it in double quotes because it's going to search for those exact numbers, and then I basically use a variable called Met ID. So I say the variable Met IDs is equal to this list of 18 IDs. And then I say, I'm looking for items in Wikidata that have the Met object ID. That's what P3634 is right there. And we give them the list of Met IDs, and you hit run, boom, there come back all of our queue numbers that match that. Hopefully it matches 18, because if basically one doesn't exist, it'll come back with 17, 16, or whatever. We're very lucky in that it made our life a lot easier. It kind of shows the fruits of our labor is that 18 results came back. So that's great. Every single object that was highlighted by the Google Doodle, we actually have a Wikidata item for. So we can actually take this list of queue numbers here, and that's what Richard used to fill in this list of depicts right there.
And at some point, I may even go back and say which ones represent G's and which ones represent O's and which ones represent L's and E's, because that is more information they could squeeze into Wikidata item. We believe in completeness of Wikidata. Yeah,
if you really want to get there, that's a good idea. So now the interesting thing is, okay, so this is a great thing. This is what we call reconciliation. If you want to use the data term, like I've got a list of this from the real world. What are the corresponding items in the wiki world? And if we can get a good match, that's really good for us. It's called reconciliation. Now, our life was made a lot easier because it was easy identifier to Wikidata item matching. Now the question is, if we want to work with that set of 18, do we need to carry around all these queue numbers everywhere and do all kinds of stuff? The good news is no. There's kind of two ways we can kind of carry around a bag of queue numbers with us. One is we can just use this Sparkle query all the time. Like we basically just carry around these two lines, and they will actually extract the right queue numbers for us to work on all the time if we want to look at the images and things like that. So let's give you a sample of what this looks like. So if I go in here, all I'm doing right now is I'm saying, is there an item and what's the name? And that's what I'm seeing here. But this is kind of boring. We want something that looks more like this, right? We want to see images. We want to see metadata, all this stuff. So the nice thing is the query can do this for us. We can basically just come in here and say, and I have a shortcut here. We can say optionally, if there is an image, if I put my mouse on top of that, this will say, if there is an image, which is property P18, then store that as image. And let's go ahead and just put that up here and run that. And you can see that, yes, there is an image. Hopefully, I was scrolling down this morning. Yes, every single one has an image. That's great. Okay, so the nice thing is if you have an image in a column of these database results, you can actually come down here and choose image grid. And now you get something a lot more visually interesting, right? So here's all of the images, and these are really high quality because the Met has allowed these to be OA downloaded to Wikimedia Commons. And before we had OA, it was kind of a smattering of really good pictures, not so good pictures, blurry ones, grainy ones. So it's really nice to see all these high quality images now. So we can do some other things. We can actually go in here and say, let's optionally here, not just get the image, but let's find out what they have as the creator. So I can type in here creator. Okay, and there's their creator. It's P170. And then I'm going to rename this to be creator. And then let's go ahead and show you the creator, which is going to be the code. But let me go ahead and type in creator label like that. Okay, and there we go. We can see Vincent van Gogh, Kunst Lochner. And then some of these are so ancient, we don't have a creator for those. And then we also have some well-known artists there. Okay, so we can kind of keep adding things here to work with this if we want. So this, just having these 2 lines of query will get us, allow us to work with that set. The other thing I thought I'd show you is a tool called Petscan, which is kind of a beast of a tool, but it's super powerful. And one thing we can do here is to actually go in here and say, give us that Sparkle query, right? So there's our Sparkle query. Oops, let's go back here and grab the whole thing here. So there's our Sparkle query, which is the language that is used for the Wikidata. And we can actually say, run the Sparkle query. And you can see that here are the 18 results. And the power of this tool called Petscan is you can do all kinds of cool things. Like you can say, show me things that are bigger than this, less than that, treated by this user, all kinds of different things. But one thing we can do is go into output right here. And we can actually say, we can download this as a CSV file, right? So we can download all this information as columns and rows in a spreadsheet file. But the cool thing is we can actually click on Pagepile. And this is something that has been around for a while, but a lot of people don't know about in our community, is you can actually create kind of a short link for all the stuff. So if I go in here and say Pagepile, I can say do it. And you can actually go in here and it says, okay, good. I've created a unique identifier, 35772, that contains all these 18 items. And the cool thing is now I can use this one identifier, 35772, in a lot of tools in our Wikipedia universe or Wikimedia universe to do all kinds of neat things. All right. So one of the tools I want to show you next is now how do we modify these items, like metadata for these items. So there's a tool called TABernacle, which is pretty neat because it allows you to do all kinds of nice things with the data in a tabular or spreadsheet type of way. So let me just show you the 3 different ways we can do this. I go to new tabular view. And the cool thing is I could just go ahead and put in that Sparkle query that I had before, right? I could say, go in and do that Sparkle query like that. But we've already done all the hard work. So actually we could just go into Pagepile and just put in that magical Pagepile. Whoops, sorry. Pagepile I had back here, right? 35772. I can just go in here and put in that and then hit run. And then now I can say, what do I want to show from that? I want to show the label. I want to show the description and hit run. And you can see now for all 18 items, I can see all of the entered labels in all its languages and all the descriptions in their entered languages. So this is really useful to have just to see what I can see inside the database. And you can see some of these have a lot of description, but some of them don't, like only have English right there. If I'm interested in particular languages, I can go in here and say, I only want English, French, Spanish, and German, and let's say Chinese, just by the language codes there. And I hit run. And the cool thing is it highlights in red things that are missing. So this is kind of a nice prod, or during edit-a-thons where we have meetups of volunteer individuals, they can help fill in these flags here. So these are really nice things to have at our fingertips. And then we can actually go in and start adding more properties here. So for example, one that's well known is P31, which is what is it? What is an instance of? And you can see that it's a statue, a figure, a dress, tapestry, painting. That's pretty cool. So Jeannie, what other things do we want to kind of inspect if we're looking at a whole bunch of items here? What would you be interested in?
Creator, inception, date of creation, depicts, what it depicts,
Right.
foreign languages.
Yes, that's a good point. So let's do one right away that Jeannie honed in on is depicts. Like, let's see if we have data about what is the painting depict. So if you go to add column, one downside of this tool is it doesn't really give you any help here to try to fill in stuff. You kind of have to know the P numbers, right? So I happen to know it's P180, and then I can hit run. And then you can see this statue here depicts a girl, a dancer, ballet. But let's actually go look at the image too, right? It helps us to see the image. So that's P18, and you can see it immediately pops up here, which is really cool to see. But I hit run, so this will take those changes permanent, and you can see now I get an image, and I get to see if the depiction options match up with that. So let me show you one massive example of this, which is what if I start to fill in all the fields that are interesting to us? And we actually do have an example here, which is a bit.ly link. If you guys want to try it, it is a bit.ly link called Met Google Doodle -Tabernacle. So let me actually make a banner for that so we can see that. So we are going to show this up there. So people want to try that. It's bit.ly/Met Google Doodle -Tabernacle. And you should see everything that I'm seeing on the screen here, which is kind of a massive, massive display of instance of creator. What does it depict? There's an image. There's the Met object ID that corresponds to the record that we have at the Met. An inventory number, which is the accession number, the genre, the collection, the inception date, meaning the creation date, and then the main subject. So this is kind of a nice table that kind of shows what kinds of things we'd like to see for an artwork, if possible. Not all of these need to be complete, but it would be nice to have them. So Jeannie and Richard, what are some things you can see immediately that could use improvement on this table? I can see one that is specific to portraits. So we can see here that this is a self-portrait by Samuel Joseph Brown. And then if we come over here, I think the last column here is main subject. So what are we missing here, do you think?
I think that might be Samuel Joseph Brown.
Yes, exactly. So the way that we model portraits in Wikidata is we say it can be a drawing, it can be painting, whatever. But if the genre is portrait or self-portrait, but then we'd also like the main subject to be the artist. If it's a self-portrait, the artist and the main subject should be the same. So what we can do in TABernacle, which is really nice, we can actually drag and drop that over here. So that's going to make a copy in Wikidata. And if we want to convince ourselves that's actually true, we can go to Wikidata and go to contributions. And I hope this happened. Yes, you can see right here, one of the edits that's been made on my behalf is this self-portrait has been edited by TABernacle. Now, it's a little bit hard to see, but you can hit the diff and you can see Samuel Joseph Brown has been added right there, which is pretty cool. So that's editing Wikidata without really editing Wikidata. We're using a different tool for this kind of thing. So this might be useful to folks who've never seen this before.
And Samuel Joseph Brown is I think the only named artist who doesn't have a Wikipedia article. If you check out his Wikidata item, I think he was the first African American artist to be hired by the federal government as part of the Works Relief project in the 1930s. And so there's quite a bit about him. He's in several museums. He has a fairly well-developed Wikidata item, but he does not yet have a Wikipedia article in any language. So that would be a very good opportunity to start one.
Yes, you're right. So this is a great time to inspect a Wikidata item. If you go to the bottom, Wikipedia, no article there. So this would be a great candidate for creating an article, given he's a WPA artist and he's got works in the Met and everything, right? So.
Yeah, and the Smithsonian as well. And he's in quite a few databases.
Yeah. Jeannie, what are some other things that you would like to see improved here, or like tasks that you see that can be done here to improve the entries on Met objects here?
Inception, which is the date it was created.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing main subject? Can you define main subject?
Yeah, I think for paintings and things like that, we tend to. I don't know about 3D objects, Richard. We tend not to, but I'm not completely sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes a 3D object is a portrait too, so I've used it sometimes, or it has a theme. Sometimes if something has like an abstract theme, then I try to put the theme as the main subject, and then I do like the physical thing as, which I mean, so a lot of these statues are allegorical. I mean, at least sometimes. And so if it has a theme, I put the theme, and then I do the individual things that are depicted as depicts. But
right, like for example, the unicorn in captivity. I'm not sure a main subject unicorn would be something we'd put, but maybe we would. That makes sense.
I mean, I think that has a lot of allegorical themes, and it requires someone with better knowledge of tapestry history than me to get at it.
Right, right.
The other thing I always like to check is references. I mean, I think judging by this table, they all have references, but if you're new to Wikidata, references is a very easy way to start editing Wikidata items.
That's a great point. Like something that's hidden here is that you pull this down, you can see some more what we call qualifiers or references. We'd like to see some more attribution as to where that information came from. That's right. So this is a nice way to kind of get a 10,000-foot view of where the collection's data is for a swath of Wikidata. But it is nice to kind of see whether we can be consistent across these fields. Another thing that we haven't done on a lot of these objects is we like to not only put Metropolitan Museum of Art, but also the department, Jeannie. So only a handful of these have department, and that's something we can fix quite quickly.
Yeah. I need to run, but thank you guys. And
okay, thank you
for helping improve our data.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. So yeah, so you can see that one practice we just employed recently is not only to put the collection as the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is good for findability, but the department under which it is, you know, whether it's American Wing or something like that, we want to put that in there as well. And, you know, that's not perfect modeling, but it's the most practical modeling, I think. Sometimes the compromise you make, right, Richard?
And sometimes, I mean, I think these things, some of them, it's hard for me to see the screen in much detail, but some of them should have things more like, especially some of the older work should have culture, you should have country of origin,
right.
Things like that. I wonder, like the Goa stone, that is, it's a product of like Portuguese colonialism in India, if I remember correctly. And I wonder what culture tag that should have.
Yeah, you're right. And before Jeannie left, we could have asked her this, but the interesting thing is we're trying to, with Wikidata, find the lowest common denominator, or hopefully not the lowest, but a common denominator for multiple GLAM institutions. And at the Met, at least, she said that culture is set for an object usually only when there's no creator. So, for example, the Degas one might have culture as French, but normally may not have that. But the culture for like Egyptian or ancient Egypt or Byzantine Empire, and you don't know the artist, that's when the culture would be like Byzantine or Egyptian, and you wouldn't necessarily set that for a 20th century modern artist or something like that. So, so trying to understand the practices of GLAM institutions is also interesting, right? Yeah,
I mean, there's, you know, and what might be appropriate to one institution might be different things might be appropriate to Wikidata or to a different institution, and sometimes, you know, sometimes it might work and sometimes it might not work. There's obviously some cases in which culture might be appropriate for something for 20th century.
Right.
Anyway, there's all sorts of different variations, wonderful variations of Wikidata you can discover.
Right. And that's something that we found is with the Sum of All Paintings project. If anyone's interested in getting into this in deeper ways, the Sum of All Paintings project is very active and does a lot of the cutting edge work. And we ran into this issue that some museums classified certain things as paintings and other museums identified the exact same thing as not a painting, right? So some museums will say a leaf from a manuscript, like a page of a book that's outside the book, is a painting now. And some museums say, that's not a painting, that's just a page from a book. So even what is a painting is not always the same.
And don't even start on sculpture, because are things sculptures? Are they statues? Are they figures? Are they figurines? I think we have all represented in these 18 in these 18 artworks. We have statues, sculptures, figures, and figurines. And you know, if you know the difference between a figure and a figurine, please write to me. So it's a little bit hard to tell sometimes. And I think actually we put too much, well, not too much, but we put a lot of effort into classifying paintings and perhaps less to some other forms. Paintings are very, standard European centric type of art form, and we have a little bit less of a good taxonomy about some other types of artworks.
Right, exactly. And that's something that, I'm always relieved when we meet with museums and you ask them about, well, how should we do statues and sculptures? And they're like, well, it's complicated. I'm like, oh, thank you. Then we're not doing such a bad job, because it's like,
so here's
we'd
figurines.
Be very worried. Yeah, we'd be very worried if like, oh, we've got it all down, you guys are all screwed up. But it's almost always, oh, it's not easy. And we're like, oh, good. We're so happy to hear that. But Richard, I thought you could demo some of the cool things we can now do with the Mbabel template. So if you want to share your screen.
Oh yeah, let me share my screen.
You share the screen while I show folks the kind of the cool things we can do with this. Some of you may know that in Wikipedia, when you see a red link like that, that means it's the absence of an article, and it's kind of a prod to say, get involved, click on the red link, and try helping us fill in the record on how to create better content. For better or for worse, Wikipedia now having 6 million some articles, and the culture has changed a little bit, that you don't see as many red links, not only because there's 6 million articles, not 600,000 articles, but also there is kind of a culture of removing red links because they don't look nice, which is a little bit problematic, because how would you know to create stuff if you don't know that it's missing? So that's something that I think is useful to see, red links to prod you. And Richard has made this really cool tool to show you what articles need creating and then which ones exist already.
Yeah, so it's just a simple query of the 18 artworks that were featured in the Google Doodle. You'll need to notice that they're grouped by type, and we indeed have 2 figurines here. There's a figure below, which might be applicable as well. You'll see that some of these are blue links. These are articles that exist already, but they're also red links. Like, for example, this Van Gogh work, Self-Portrait with the Straw Hat, and I'm overcorrecting the pronunciation there, of course. And this creates a little bit of a draft Wikipedia article saying Self-Portrait with a Straw Hat is an 1887 painting, portrait / self-portrait by Vincent van Gogh, collection of the Met, and it says it depicts Van Gogh, hat, and man. And it has this what you call an info box, describing the size, the materials, things like that. So this, you wouldn't have to know a lot about Wikipedia editing to create this and write a little bit of a draft about it, and use some of the Met and the Met collection website and other things as sources. Similarly with any of the things here that if you feel they're worthy of an article, you can start it, whether it's on this figure, which is actually, I'm not even sure where it's from. I think it's from somewhere in Africa, but we've got to check on that. That requires more detail, whether it's this mosaic, this work by Samuel Joseph Brown, which is a drawing, the dress. You can sort of create some of these items just based purely on the Wikidata item. And the nice thing about it is if you improve the Wikidata item through something like TABernacle, it's easier to develop it. I should also probably share the existing Wikipedia articles we have. So we actually have 4 Wikipedia articles that are represented on this list that were already there. So the first I want to share is Comtesse de la Châtre, and I'm also probably mangling that, which is a painting by Louise Elizabeth Vigier-Lebrun, and it was created actually as part of one of our online editathons with the Met, with the different programs we supported, and it exists in English and in French. It has a bit about her, a bit about the work and about the artist. You can also see we have a work here about the armor of Ferdinand I, Holy Roman Emperor, which I worked on a bit, and I had a lot of help from some of the curators in the Arms and Armor department about this very particular suit of armor and the quite elaborate depictions and symbolism on it. And they actually took some new photographs of the work to help illustrate it. And I think there was some new research coming out. When I talked to the curator, he said there was some new research coming out. So I should probably check to see if that has been published since. And there's also a version of this in Spanish. Of course, you're a multilingual project. I'd also share, we have one item, one that was started an in-person editathon. So back when we had things in person at the Met, we had someone started an article on the Goa stone, which is a type of stone produced by Jesuits in India, or maybe produced for Jesuits. And in this case, we decided to make the article on the type of work. rather than the individual item, because it's the type of thing where there are maybe 5 items or something like that, and the Met work is a significant part of the scholarship on it, so it probably makes sense just to create it on the topic in general. So this is a fairly well-referenced article on this sort of a replica of a bezoar, a man-made replica of a bezoar, a anthropogenic bezoar, which is otherwise a mass found in the gastrointestinal system in certain animals, and which has some properties which are maybe medicinal, maybe religious. It's a little bit unclear, but that's it was kind of an interesting topic. I was glad we were able to develop it. And of course, the other one is the unicorn tapestries.
And we got a nice note from Peace Ray saying he created a new category just for Samuel Joseph Brown Jr. and everything. So thank you.
And shout out to Peace Ray for messaging me 12:15 a.m. last night, letting me know about the Google Doodle. So
he was the one. Thank you.
He was the one. So thank you. Thank you for that. In this case, this was, unlike the other ones, this was pre-existing. This was not created by the efforts of Jeannie, Andrew, and I with the Med Wiki project. This is a very well-known artwork, and we have an article on the whole series of tapestries. Potentially, there could be an article on each individual tapestry as well, because I'm sure there's been quite a lot written about it. But we have quite a well-developed article on the Tapestry series as a whole.
Right, and just to summarize, you had how many? Only 3 of the 18 had an article about this.
I think we had, if we count generously, 4.
Mm-hmm.
If we count the tapestries together, if we count the Goa stone, but even but the other ones don't have an article at all. Several of them, most of them should have an article, or at least there should be a very clear article on the type of work, like the Goa stone. And there, in one case, there's in one case, in that self-portrait, Samuel Joseph Brown, we don't even have an article on the artist. So
Right.
that'd be a very valuable thing to develop, and I'll probably try to start it later today. Now that I know about it, know about his work.
Yeah, and if folks aren't familiar, we just kind of jumped here to this list of 18, which is awesomely created based off Wikidata. But some of you, if you don't know, there is a script on Wikipedia called Listeria. Yes, very alarming name, Listeria. But Listeria is a cool tool where you can actually go in and enter, the Sparkle code. So again, do not be afraid if you're not an expert on Sparkle, but you can just copy someone else's code and just work with theirs. And basically what it's doing is doing a query against Wikidata and telling the tool to bring up anything it finds that matches that query, and it fills in all this information here, which is really nice. So this is very helpful for us as a community to track batches or collections of artwork and giving us kind of a goal down, a light of the end of the tunnel, saying we are 10% done, 50% done, 80% done with making these articles about these notable works. So if you're interested in playing around with it more, Listeria is the tool that allows you to do this. And Richard, what do you think? We probably have thousands of Listeria lists that are being used across the projects.
Yeah, and they're all being updated. Some are by artists, some are by collections, some are by subject. We have Listeria of horse paintings. You just if you're really into horse paintings, and some of us are, you can get them updated generally, and you can also do things like so something that we've also done is which languages are these articles translated into. So you can go through a list of which paintings or sculptures are in one language but not another language and be translated. We've had some we have a lot of shout outs for bezoars in the bezoar saved Ron Weasley's life, so that's pretty important. And Jan is asking about Goa stones. Also, Caroline expressed some support for Vigée Lebrun's paintings, which are nice. And some other good artistic observations in the chat. But the guitar and dress are probably insufficient. So we probably want something more specific. We want it more specific on the type of dress and the type of guitar. The dress is from a particular culture. The guitar is from a particular time period and a particular artistic depiction in a particular culture. So we probably want to get more specificity. And one thing that I've delayed on, but I want to probably push more on, is trying to find what is the appropriate level where we have a Wikipedia article, and how do we represent that it is more or less complete as far as Wikipedia articles, because like the Goa Stone is probably complete as far as we want Wikipedia articles. Other things may not be, but just how to sort of code that in.
Yeah, that's right. So I learned a lot today in terms of, I didn't even know what a bezoar was until today, and now I have learned they are part of Harry Potter lore. So
and now you know how to make your own bezoar if you don't have one naturally available.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to do that, but that's interesting. So yeah, we thought we'd just show you some tools and techniques that when we're dealing with swaths of content in the Wikipedia world, these are the tools that we tend to use. We'd love to hear from other folks in terms of what you do or what you use to upgrade or to enhance what we find in Wikipedia and Wikidata. So if we go back to the TABernacle, which I think if we go to, I can go ahead and use my nice bit.ly link here, bit.ly/met Google Doodle -TABernacle. We'll come back here to this. And again, one of the easy things you can do is just simply translating, or if you don't feel like it should be translated, which oftentimes, right, Richard, these labels or titles are not translated unless you are hyper famous. You just map the existing language over, right? So, and then other things like this, to normalize some of these names here is something we do all the time, where we try to make sure that at least for items from the Met, we put the accession number or something in there, because you probably have 100 items in Wikidata called female dancer. So to make sure people know which female dancer they're looking at, we like to make sure that the most up-to-date information is there for something like this. So we want to make sure the description has something that distinguishes it from other female dancer figurines or statues.
Yeah, it might have the the institution, might have the artist, it might have the accession code if we want to we want to get really specific.
So, Richard, we had a question: how easy it is to port Mbabel? We already know it exists in Portuguese, so tell us.
Yeah, it's relatively easy. I don't know how easy it is, but it's certainly doable. There's not like any sort of weird MediaWiki extensions you need or anything like that. The templates exist on English and Portuguese primarily, but I think also in French and maybe a couple other languages in a more rudimentary way. And yeah, you can certainly import them and do whatever you want with them, whether it's Swedish or any other language. It shouldn't be too hard. I'm not sure if how to do right to left. It might have to change the templates a bit, but other than that, it should be relatively easy. You just have to make your own sort of decisions about how you want that draft article to look, how you want the article, what section should it have, which properties would be good to import or you would find useful, and what is the appropriate sentence that assumes as little about the grammar as possible for your language.
Yeah, and we should mention the Portuguese community, at least in Brazil, uses it quite a bit. They used it for training and for editathons, so it absolutely is portable to other languages, and it's pretty much all template driven, right, Richard? So it's easy.
Yeah, it's all template driven, and I think what we should do is we should make them more for artists. So, for example, the artist today, the WPA artist would be good for his article, and some of the articles for like art and feminism, it might be useful to have this, because it's been done. We started it for artworks with the Met, but I mean the Brazilian community on Portuguese Wikipedia has been quite active in adapting it for libraries, museums, even state elections in Brazil, which is kind of their pièce de résistance in terms of a very complicated narrative that could be developed from just pure data.
Right. So I thought I'd show you one tool that we're currently working on. It's still never fully done, but it shows you kind of things that we can do to help improve Wikidata items based on museums content. So this is an example. If we look in TABernacle, we're looking at that female dancer, right? So this is actually probably one of the older items that were imported, Richard, into Wikidata, because you can kind of see that just from the description, it's kind of an old style description. If you look at some of the metadata, it's not that complete in some areas here. But let's go look at another one. Let's look at the mask one. The mask is another good one. This is an old style description here. And then you can see there's no department here, right? You can see that the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but there's no department. We'd like to fill out some more stuff here. So what we could do is if you click on the green 22739 link there. That'll get you to the Met record. Now, this is something dangerous about TABernacle that we were just talking about yesterday. You put your mouse on top. It is very easy to hit that X button, and that X button, without confirmation, will remove that statement from Wikidata. The power and the weakness of, or the danger of TABernacle is there is no confirmation for most of the stuff you do here. It is meant for speed, and you do risk these things. So make sure when you mouse over it, you're not clicking on that. I just did that today. I accidentally deleted an entry. So if I click on the green identifier, this is the information we get from the Wiki. I'm sorry, not Wiki, from the Met. And I thought I'd also show you just kind of on the back end what kind of things we're doing. I can actually go into the Met API. So there's an application programming interface. So it's basically getting a version of what the Met database has. So I can actually go back there and see even more detailed information about this mask. So you can actually see where we can see even more detailed stuff about who the creators were and all this stuff. It's a Japanese mask, the period. You can see culture we were talking about here before. Might we want to bring over all these culture statements from the Met to Wikidata? Maybe. But as Richard said, we don't have tons of usage of culture right now, but we actually have it at our fingertips from an entity like the Met. Then we have all kinds of things here, like the dates and things like that. But what we'd like to do is to pick up on the fact that this is coming from the Arms and Armor department. It wouldn't be nice to add the Arms and Armor department to this part right here. So we actually have a very easy to use tool right now that does some of this. And let me see, let me show you this quick tool that we kind of hacked together. This is a tool that we call Glam Ingest. And it basically will allow you to go in and look at any kind of object at the Met and then write the quick statements that will get you that information. So this is kind of nice. Let's go ahead and get that mask information. So this is the object ID for the mask, which we also can find here, right? Go ahead and find that ID. And then we have the Glam Ingest tool here. We can go ahead and type in the object, and then it's going to go out to the API. It's going to do its magic to figure out, oh, okay, that in the Met is this in Wikidata. And you can see that it already knows it exists. So it can modify the existing Q number, which is this. And we're pretty sure that the mask and all this information is pretty much there already. But what we can do is let's go ahead and just copy all this here and go to quick statements. So quick statements is our tool for Wikidata that allows us to very quickly ingest metadata right there. So what this is going to do, it's going to modify this item in Wikidata with this property and then this content out there. So let's go ahead and say import version 1 commands right there. And this is a summary of what it's going to do to that item. Let's go ahead and run. And anything that's just duplicate of what's already there, it's just going to put an exclamation point right there. So it's kind of like no harm, no foul. It's already there. It's not an error. It's just I'm not going to do anything. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the stuff it's done. So you can see like half the stuff it didn't do, but a lot of the other stuff it did. Like it added the copyright status there. It added the Arms and Armor collection right there. Hopefully, let's see. So let's go back to our TABernacle, and let's go ahead and reload this page. I'm going to go up there and reload it. I hope it's fast enough, Richard. Sometimes there's a lag, right?
I hope so.
Yep. Yeah. So hopefully, let's go down here to the mask. Do we have the department? There we are. Look at that. Arms and Armor. So that's kind of nice. And then we also now have, if you look in the qualifiers here, we actually have the all these information here, collection highlight, whether it's a highlight or not. The inventory number is duplicated here as well for Arms and Armor. Again, as Richard and I said earlier in the talk, like we do sometimes duplicate content in Wikidata just for findability. It may not be the perfect model, but we do like to have it available where people expect it. And you can see here, similarly, if you pull this down, we have the accession number and the collection information right there of Metropolitan Museum of Art. Okay, so just an example of one tool that we're using to kind of fill in the blanks as we go along, and it allows us to add more meaningful metadata to these types of items there. All right, so other things that we can do here, Richard, what do you think for the TABernacle content here? Inception, we've got that. Depiction information is something we could certainly do more with, right?
Yeah, especially if people can recognize clothing from historic periods.
Right.
If
So
we
let's
can
take a look. Go ahead. Sorry.
If anyone can recognize the dance step that the female dancer is doing, we could add that. If you're familiar with ancient Chinese dance, there's all sorts of things you can add. What type of chair is that exactly? I don't. There's probably a good bit more detail on what type of chair that is.
Exactly, and we can go to the Met object here. Let's say crest tablet and ancient Clismos form turn legs to makers. It doesn't tell much about depiction information, although we can get a good close up here and get right in there. Griffin, other stuff that's right there. Yeah.
Could do the color.
Color. How do we model color, Richard?
Yeah, we should have color. I mean, you want all the yellow side chairs. What if you want to what if you're like an evil villain and you're designing your living room with objects you've stolen from the Met?
Right. Or instance of handsomely executed chair, as Jan said there.
Or you could do, you could look at yellow furniture from different cultures and different time periods.
I actually, Jan, it'd be interesting. You said we have a proper color, but I don't know if I've ever really said it before.
I've said it mostly for things inside of an artwork. There's a cow that's blue. Right. So I'd say depicts a cow, has color blue, or relatively rarely to work as a whole, but I think it makes sense for something like a chair.
And then the colors, I mean, we're talking like a Crayola box of 128 colors.
Yeah. Anything that's a Wikidata item for a color, and which means mostly, I guess Wikipedia articles for colors, but also there are more than them. We should mention the griffins for sure. And we should try to find if they're the right type of griffins, because there might be different kinds. And maybe it's like a certain European neo-griffin, and maybe there's true griffins.
And then there's a tool we probably won't demo here. There's a tool called Wikidata Positions, which is kind of neat. Not only can you say depicts a griffin, you can kind of make a bounding box of exactly where it is in the image. Which
and
is
you would probably say which particular slat has the has the griffin. So if you're a furniture maker out there, the upper rest slat or whatever this thing is, would have the griffin on it, and then maybe other iconography on different parts of it.
So this is interesting. This only has one depiction statement right now. It's woman. Now we could do much better than that, right? For this one.
Yes, that's a pretty weak depiction game.
So we can do it through any number of tools. I'm going to show one that I like using called Wade, which we helped develop with the Smithsonian here. So Wade gives you the image in large size. It kind of gives you all the metadata. It says right now all there is woman, which is bad. So what are some things we could type in here? Maybe book. And then it'll give you a rundown. Go ahead.
The key thing is the actual woman and her name. And I assume she's probably on Wikidata. She looks quite a rich person. So she's probably on Wikidata somewhere. If she doesn't have or if she isn't, she probably should be. Comtesse de la Chatre.
Or Marie Charlotte. Let's look for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, we may have to go back to the full Wikidata. One weakness of this tool, it only allows you to add depiction statements that have been added to other items already.
Oh.
And that's a feature, not a bug, but it can be a bug if you are looking for more things. So we can also tell from the, oops, is muslin there? Yes, there we go. So the description from the Met said muslin dress, so we can say depict muslin. Do we just say hat, or is that a particular type of hat? If people know in the chat, is there a better description for that particular type of hat? I'm not sure.
There's definitely a better term. I'm not sure which one. It's a wide brimmed hat. There's definitely a better term. Is it a straw hat? I'm not sure.
Right.
I have to get a better look at it and better hat knowledge.
Right. And we call this a couch, but I know that some people might go bonkers. It might be a special type of couch that we don't know of, but I'll put couch for now. And then we add these to Wikidata. And then now hopefully we have more rich information about this image there. There we are.
Oh, well, we can say she's sitting.
Oh, how do we put that in there?
We would do the property gesture / body position.
Okay.
And then sitting.
So
that was one of my properties. I'm very proud of it.
Expression, gesture, or body pose. All right. Oh, the qualifier for depicts. Okay. This is a good lesson. So that means we're not allowed to use it here, right?
I guess.
So we got to hit cancel. But we go to a woman, right?
Yeah.
So we go up to woman. Where we find it, right? Where? Here. So we say edit, and then we add a qualifier of gesture, expression, gesture, body pose, and say sitting.
Yeah, I think sitting should work.
All right. We'll cross our fingers, see if there's a constraint violation. Yes, it seems to be working. All right. So in Wikidata, if it found a problem with this, it would put a little lightning bolt or something that says there's a problem. But it looks like we're good here. So let's reload this and see what other depiction statements. So you can see now depiction, all these things we've just added there. Yep. So, thanks. Jan was telling us, but I couldn't see it. It's a qualifier on a woman. And then black ribbon. Oh, there's a black ribbon as a specific thing. Interesting.
Could be like a symbol of mourning. It's hard for me to tell exactly because the color. But yeah.
So let's do a quick look for Marie Charlotte Louise Perret Agla Bontemps and see.
Yeah.
If she's.
She must be part of the aristocracy, I imagine. Let's see if she's on Wikidata.
Let's see. But you never know, like whether someone who entered them actually put in the full title in that sequence, right? Oh, that's just us, though.
That's just us, yeah.
So we don't have an item for her per se.
We should create one, I think. I think that would be best. I mean, well, maybe not right now, but in general, she's obviously she's part of she's very likely one part of these noble families, and these noble families have lots of members on Wikidata already. So if we can find her and we can find some for relatives, that would be a good way to do it.
Here's a good hint. Like we actually have an article about this painting, right? But then in the article itself, they don't link to her as a.
Is she in the French article? There's a French article on this painting, I think.
That's a good question.
I don't know if it's a mere translation of the English one or if it has more information.
Yeah, looks like she does not have a link from here out to anything else. Yeah.
Well, with a little bit of research, I think we can find her.
Right. Right. But that's good. So that shows you kind of how we can add the depiction information and then qualifiers.
And she will also be main subject once we figure out her identity.
That's true. Right. Yeah, and that's a good point. Like main subject and all that needs to point to a Wikidata item. You just
she may be the patron of the work too. I mean, we should probably look up to see if that's true, and if I guess there probably is a property for that. I think
probably true. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Here's an external link that is not expanded. I'm really particular in this area, so I'm going to go in and use my expand bare references tool because I can't stand seeing a bare reference. Well, I don't know if that saved it or not. Let's see. Yeah, it kind of expanded it. So at least we have something better than we had before right there. So that's the expand bare references tool for English Wikipedia, at least.
That's good.
All right. Good. Anything else we can see here that we can upgrade right off the bat? This seems like we could add more depiction information. What do you think? All it says is man. Harp. It's a harp player.
Harp. Yes, it's a harp player. Yes, that would be helpful. And I mean, if there's more detail on the type of harp, then yes, that too, because it's it's like an ancient harp.
So chair, right? He's sitting on a high back chair and a harp. Well, the funny thing is the title says harp, but the description says stringed instrument. But
yeah,
I wonder.
I mean, harp is probably okay for now.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a more detailed thing.
But you know what we can do? We can actually go right to the heart of the metadata. So we can actually go to the Met API and see what the Met API reports as being depicted. So we can actually go down here and, well, first of all, it says harp here. And then they actually have these tags. And look, here we are. Harp is exactly what the Met says in its precise metadata. And this is a good time to also tell you that, look at this. The Met is not only says it's a harp, it actually points to the Wikidata item of harp. And it points to the very well-known arts database, AAT, the Art and Architecture Thesaurus, for their entry. So this is really something that the Met has advanced in the last year of putting in these back pointers to two well-known databases, which is kind of nice. So that means that we can actually definitively say HARP in our metadata. So let's go back here, and I'll just use this tool again. All right, so what can we say? HARP, is it?
HARP, yeah. We could say harpist.
Harpist.
Yeah, it is we have Wikidata for harpist. I check that.
That is a good idea. Yep. And then a chair.
Chair.
All right, add these to artwork. So this is really fun, folks. I mean, I think we're trying to structure more Wikipedia editathons and meetups around these types of activities. It's more than just editing articles. And these can be really useful when you start doing visualizations and searching.
Do we have material on there? Is it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is it? I guess. Is it marble? Is there something more specific?
Jones. Oh, marble. It is marble. So we don't have that right now?
I'm not sure. Let's check.
We don't. Okay, good. Material used, right?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Made from material. Yeah, I think that's it.
Is it though?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Wait a minute. It's not that I don't trust you, but I just want to.
Oh, there's something else which is like, yes, there is one property that means like generally made from a type of thing that is generally made from this type of material. There's another property that means that this specific thing is made from this material. Right.
No, you're right. It's made from material. I don't remember that exact phraseology though. Do you think it might have changed recently?
It might have changed. There's also like, natural product of taxon. That's one of my favorite ones, but that's not applicable here. But it means like you can name the particular species of snail that a pigment comes from.
All right. Let's look at the edit history of P186. I don't know whether. Oh, look, changed English language label, made from material. Let's see what it used to be. Made from.
Oh, that seems better. I don't know.
I guess so. Material used.
Anyway, it's more has a more useful word. I don't know. It's not too wordy.
Material used. I see. Yeah, you're right. I think that's right. So.
Made from seems a bit too sparse.
Yeah. Because I remember this was the label. So when you said it was made from material, I thought it was a different one. It's actually the same one relabeled. So, okay.
That's why we have the P numbers.
Yes, exactly. Right, Richard. That's what it is. It's a semantic database. Mm-hmm. You can relabel it whatever you want. It's still P186. Right?
So I have to memorize them all like the times tables.
Exactly. All right. So, good. This is the marble seated harp player. Anything else we can upgrade? Okay, let's reload this. See if we can.
I wonder if we know whether that person is left-handed or right-handed, but I won't put that in now. But we probably can't figure it out. I don't play enough harp to know.
Right, seated male figure. Oh, that's really cool. I love that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Not much else depicted that we can tell, though, right?
We can do a gesture.
Gesture.
Hand on chin.
Yep.
Sitting and hand on chin. I think hand on chin, right? Yeah.
And yeah.
Head resting on chin.
Right. Hand resting on chin.
Yeah, chin
that
resting on hand. Yeah,
right?
That is a gesture. There's a Wikidata for it too, I think.
Ooh, nice. Okay, qualifier. Gesture. And then hand on chin, you said?
Something like that, yeah. Or hand resting on chin.
Hand
or...
resting. That is a gesture you would think that would be modeled.
Yeah.
We can say seated. Is it seated?
Yeah,
sitting.
Definitely sitting.
That is one. We don't have to just use one. Let's see. What else can we say? Hand on foot.
Head on hand. There's definitely a. I mean, obviously it's a.
Hand on chin, though, right? I would think that that's a significant thing.
And. Well, if it doesn't exist, we should create it. But I think I remember it existing.
Let's look at the object record too and see what seated male figure. So seated is good. I wonder if we could put culture Congo.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Make sure it's the right. Yeah. I guess it's the kingdom. Is it? Yeah. The Congo culture and what time period was it? Was it the culture or is it the kingdom? I mean, there's the two different things.
Right. And we always run into this problem, right, Richard, of sometimes the language, sometimes the culture.
Yeah.
and they're not. Sometimes they're not separated out correctly, and that might be.
There was a state of Congo which existed for centuries, and there's still I think a Congo culture, but they're not. Neither of them are in the Republic of Congo or the Democratic Republic of Congo. So this is why we have Wikidata, because things aren't predictable from the string.
What do you think? Should it be Kingdom of Congo? Do you think?
Quite possibly.
I'm not sure though. Congo peoples.
Maybe it probably should be Congo peoples, and we should see the time period depending on. I guess I'm not sure if the kingdom was. Certainly, it was under the Portuguese colonialism by that time, probably directly, but at least the Congo peoples is the culture, I guess.
Yeah, let's do a quick search of Congo, and that might help disambiguate. Here we go. Congo and then Congo people. So we have this. So let's see what the Wikidata is for this. Congo people. Does it depict Congo people? I guess it does. But the culture should be.
Yeah, the culture, and we should put the country of origin too, which I think is probably Angola, but you want to check?
It is. It's both in Congo and Angola, or it straddles them. It seems.
Okay.
But Kakonga seems to be the right culture, former country. So let's see. Let's make sure we put that as the culture of. And as Richard said, sometimes we just want to go hyper precise and put the Q number in, so we don't even risk getting confused, right? So
I'm gonna check out the different values that are used for gesture to see if there's anything interesting.
That'd be great. Yeah, and as Jan said, it does that position seems to be well known enough that we'd have a name for it. But I'm not aware of it. Yeah. Do we have instances of sitting positions in Wikidata? I'm not sure. This is the Wikidata wormhole that Wikidata folks are used to going down. So. Okay, so if we have that.
It might well be, especially there might be a culturally specific one as well. It looks like looking at I obviously don't know a lot about this, but it looks like the one hand is over the leg, one hand is the head is resting on. It looks like a contemplative position, but it depends on the culture.
Yeah, really interesting. I guess we could put safely earring too, right?
Yeah, we could put where's earring as well. If the
where's, yes, that's true. Oh no, that's a qualifier, right?
The qualifier, yeah.
Depicts man, and then there's also another qualifier called where's earring. There's a qualifier there. All right, so that is filling in that information there. And this seated human figure, we could do another one here. Human figure, interesting. So this one doesn't say man or woman, it's just a seated figure.
Okay, so it could be either, it could be deliberately androgynous, it could be unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So it's from Mali. It's from the Niger Delta region.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes from a particular site. So the particular city/site, Geno, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So that should all be in the metadata.
Right. Interesting. So this, at least we can put in the gesture position, right? So see image, inception, location depicts human figure. We can add the qualifier of gesture. Sitting. Do more than sitting, it's kind of leaned over, but at least it's sitting is the basic description there. Oh, so Jan's found something at Q474197. Let's see what that is.
Okay.
I'm eager to see what this is. Q 474 197. Lotus pose. Well, lotus, I think, requires the legs to be crossed like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's lotus pose. I mean, it's related. It might be a culturally specific position. We'd have to,
Right.
It requires
but
more.
These are not quite lotus because they're not.
And the hand is
curled in. Yeah, but I agree that that's the right direction. But the funny thing is, there's no instance of. Oh no, here's asana. It's an instance of asana. Is that right?
And what is asana subclass of? Is it?
Oh, it's a yoga posture. Oh, so posture, right?
So it's a subclass posture. Okay.
Right. So what we could do is do a query of all subclasses of posture and see what happens. So all instances or subclasses of, which is what we do here with WPT colon B 279 star of posture. Okay, well, we have 458 results, so that's going to be a little bit tough to go through.
Well, we have the city, so we can do the city for sure. It's spelled differently actually, but it's spelled with a DJ instead of a J. We can do that as early as I think it might be like location of origin or something like that.
Yeah, do your screen share and show us what you have. And then,
so
that. While I figure out the postures, which are really, really involved. And I wonder how many of these have images. That would be really interesting to see. I doubt very many of these have images.
Okay, we have okay, so this is the site. Site where it was found, taken from, and let's see. So it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the Niger Valley in Mali. So I'm going to see if we can add that to the item.
Oh, you took it off?
Yeah, I did, because I don't know. I wanted to go just add it to the item directly, and
okay.
Let me just see if I can get to it.
Oh, so Raymond thinks that one on top is called a half lotus. That would make sense. Let me see if I don't see a Wikidata item for half lotus right now. But you know what is interesting is when I did that Wikidata query on all subclasses of posture, it came up with 505 images, which is pretty amazing. So these are all the different images of postures. So we'd have to really look through here and find that one from a visual standpoint. But quite fascinating to see how complete, which I was not expecting, Wikidata has this. Ooh, and some weird ones. All right, so let's go with Japanese. Yeah. So I think they'll have to go unanswered for now. There's too many to look through. So. All right, so the last one I think we can do here is the this one, the floor mosaic, because I think there's actually some more things we can add there, given that there's a lot of detail back there. Let's see. So folks have ideas on what to model this thing. It looks like a cornucopia, but I don't know whether that's the right term for what this might be back there. So this is
it looks like a bouquet.
What's that?
It might be a bouquet or something a little bit more.
Yeah, like I don't know whether it's a bouquet or a horn of plenty or what
it does look like a horn of plenty, but yeah.
Let's see if the Met object page has it there. The cornucopia. Okay, good.
Okay.
Then we can definitely add that. Probably said good wishes. It's like a greeting card from the Roman era here. Fragment made of marble and glass.
So tesserae made of marble and glass.
So we can add that to the material used, right? Probably. Let's go ahead and add the depiction of a cornucopia, since we have that. And while we might as well be proper and add the reference to show folks how we do it. We'll say we got it from this site right there, and we're going to put it right in there. URL. Oh, that's interesting. This is a reference to Italian Wikipedia. And then you said material used, right? We don't have the material used here. Let's see. Let me go back here. I'm sorry. I need to take a look at material used. Okay, yeah, there we go. Material used is oh, here we go. Marble and glass, right? Marble. Why is it giving us a constraint violation? What is that? Oh, I see. Entities needs a physical object, and there's no physical image. Mosaic is not a physical object?
Well, is it the right kind of mosaic?
That's possible.
Is it like a mosaic of cultures or a mosaic of ideas?
Right.
Or is it a mosaic of little rocks?
Image made from...
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a photo mosaic, I guess, maybe more than...
So, right, this mosaic is talking about the image.
Well, what is it? What is it a statement of? What is it a statement or a subclass? What is it an instance of a subclass of? Artistic technique or process. Yeah, so it shouldn't. So it's like mosaicism or collage.
So the question is, should we just fix it by making an instance of something else as well, like a marble thing? Or
I think there's probably another item for mosaic, I would guess.
Stonework is not really the right way to go.
Is it not stonework?
Yeah. Let's see. You're right. Let me see if there's a mosaic. Is another.
Yeah, image made from an assemblage of. Oh, is that? That's odd.
So interesting. We've got an image, and then we have mosaic as a process, but that's not right either. Do we have mosaic as a noun that is an object or something? Mosaic
is 13.3067 wrong? It's a subclass of visual artwork and material.
It's a process and technique, but it's not a physical instantiation of anything.
But it's a subclass of a visual artwork and material.
Where's that?
It's just below what instance of what it's a subclass of.
An artwork, a subclass of material, subclass of visual artwork. Huh. Yeah, it should work then, right? Work of art. Unless material used is very picky. Huh. Oh, collage. That's an interesting idea. Does that mean that all mosaics are inherently collages and collages are the physical instantiation? Interesting. Subclass of ceramics, paint, and sculpture. Interesting. Though I don't know whether that's how we've been doing it in other objects. So generically it's a collage, but the technique used is mosaic. That seems plausible to me. I've never done it before. Huh.
I think mosaics are a type of collage, but I don't think there should be a conflict when we say instance of mosaic.
But as we have it defined in Wikidata, you can't have an instance of this that is a physical thing you can touch because it's a technique and process. So that means that...
But it's also a subclass, no? It's also a subclass of visual artwork. So it's definitely being counted as a visual artwork. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we bent our brain on this one.
But we bent our brain. It's Yeah, it's a little too hard.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Brian here saying you can make mosaics out of any substance, though it's used specifically in art for these tiled things. Yeah. We need someone who's much more expert than we are in modeling this.
Yeah, so all your mosaic and gesture experts, please come on. We need your help.
Well, let's do this real quick probe here. Let's just say query.
So looking at the one from Mali, the meta description says that the gesture simultaneously suggests the knotted tension of anxiety and the sublime absorption of deep prayer. So that'd be quite a hard thing to model. But I think it'd be worth figuring it out.
Let's look at all the other things that are instances of 133067. Are they also instances of other things? And the question is inst label. Be our last query of the day here.
Maybe let me check a famous mosaic and see if that one is well modeled.
That's what I was thinking too.
I was looking at let's see the Alexander the Great one.
It looks like some people want to solve this problem by also making an instance of a work, which is kind of a. Yeah.
It seems to work for the Alexander one. Maybe it was a temporary thing. Anyway.
Yeah, none of these have double instances that I can see. They're all just instances of mosaic.
The problem was Mirage. Okay.
And none of these are modeled as collages and mosaics. So I'm trying to think. Did they just leave as mosaics and ignored the any constraint violation?
I'm not seeing constraint violation on, for example, the Alexander mosaic or anything else.
Does it have a material used statement? That's the big key here.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, that's what's causing it. Well, then we should just put that in the mosaic as something that you can have. That's easy enough to fix.
But I think the better solution is to make yet another mosaic Wikidata item that is a actual physical work, right?
So I think that's what. I think that's what we're supposed to have now. We do have two mosaic, but they've been conflated. So we already have two mosaic items, and they both call themselves instances of artistic technique, which can't be right.
Well, no, one of them says it's a process, and the other one says it's not a process. Is that right? Oh no, they both say they're processes. So
they both say they're processes. Yeah,
something is messed up here.
I mean, these are all made by mortal humans.
Right.
Which is okay. In fact, it usually.
I think the key here is what about the which one's got more identifiers, right? Which one is more? So AAT has this one. Oh, let's look at AAT. And this one doesn't have AAT. Oh no, it does. So AAT is distinction here. Yeah. So AAT has one that's a process.
We have to decide which one is the process and which one is the mosaic that you hold in your hands.
Right.
And we have to just ruthlessly strip them of the wrong properties and add the right properties to the other one. Yeah. Because they have not been sufficiently differentiated. That's the problem here is differentiation, I believe.
Yeah. AAT has one is a process, one is the work. Mm-hmm. So the work is this one, but unfortunately also says it's a process and an artistic thing, which is not. Should it even have any instances here?
It probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I think that's what's confusing this thing. Yeah, I think maybe it should just be this and not be instance of anything. And it's not really an image. It should be a work made from an assemblage, right? Visual work, not image. And then that'll solve our problem. But will it though? Beyond my pay grade, I think, at this point. We'll just leave it the way it is.
Okay, so some wisdom from Jan. You don't need to be ruthless, only firm and consistent.
I know.
Okay. Thanks for the note of moderation, which needed in our times.
I would replace that with "You don't need to be wise, only firm and consistent." So, yeah. Well, thank you, Brian and Jan. This is a brain twister. So appreciate your feedback on this. It's a very lonely existence trying to model something solo. So
yeah, something beneath your feet usually the mosaic. So it's very...
yeah. So yeah, thanks for joining us for the last hour and a half of just kind of noodling around the Google Doodle, which we're thrilled to see featured Met artworks that Richard and I have been plugging away at for the last few years with the Met, with their open access initiative. And any other final words, Richard, about the Doodle?
I hope we can get some good Wikidata, some really nice Wikidata items and Wikipedia articles out of this, and have it as a little bit of a model. And maybe, you know, this is like the smallest possible set of interesting things that we have so far. So it might be a good place to experiment with, and you know, reach out to the Wiki community and other communities and see if they want to collaborate on it.
Yeah, and if you want, let me just show you one last place, which is kind of a dashboard that we have for the Met content on Wikidata, at least. Richard, maybe you can show the one that we have on Wikipedia that you've worked hard on to have places like work lists and things like that. But here, if you look on Wikidata, under the GLAM page, Wikidata : GLAM, I started putting lists of specific GLAM pages for different institutions. So I'm glad to see that the Dutch have added one, Smithsonian has one now that I'm helping them on. So if you click on the Met, you can kind of see kind of where all our different inventories are with different objects, and then even help with some issues that we might have with cleanup. And then you can also access some of the more interesting statistics that we have about popular works and work that needs to be done. So yeah, feel free to take a look at those and help out in any of those tasks that are there, in addition to the other GLAM organizations listed at Wikidata : GLAM. We hope to see more GLAM institutions there in that list. And we should also say, Richard, there's this week there's a GLAM hackathon. Is that right? The Swiss chapter.
Oh, you're probably more familiar than I am, but yeah. I think I've heard of it. Heard rumors.
Jan, you might know more than I do. I'm not getting Switzerland and Sweden mixed up. I'm just thinking you may know more than I do about the Swiss.
Just to proviso, I'm not getting Switzerland and Sweden mixed up again.
I always do that.
Or Slovenia and Slovakia, or Australia and Austria, or whatever.
Yeah, there is something on the 15th and 16th of this week about that. In fact, I think they're Open GLAM Switzerland. I believe there's maybe be something going on today related to this. Let me just drag this on screen so you can see that. So there it is, GLAM Hack 2021. So that is 16th to 17th of this week. So there might be other folks doing something in that area. All right. So thanks everyone for joining us, and feel free to contact Richard or myself if you're interested in doing anything related to GLAM editing. This week, if anyone is going to Museums on the Web 21, I'll also be giving a session with Jeannie talking about some of our Wikidata work at the Met. That is Friday at Museums on the Web 21, 2021. All right. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks.
We'll do this again.